Welcome back from that break. If you've just joined us, the program is still Good Morning Abuja, your darling breakfast show. Now, as human beings, we move from one place to the other, and so transportation is key in our day-to-day living. And if you're in the FCT, you know there was crushing of Okadas here in the FCT, popularly known as bikemen. Okadas. Now, to discuss this with me in the studio is Dr. Bello Abdul Latif. He is a Directorate of Road Traffic Services. Welcome on the program, sir.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good to have you on the program.
Yes.
Yes, sir. So, of recent, as I earlier said in my introductions, that there was crushing of Okadas. What led to the confiscation of bikes and eventually crushing of these bikes, popularly known as Okadas, in the FCT?
Okay. Let me just start unraveling this mystery by giving a background, that led us to where we are today, the instant crushing of commercial motorcycles in the Federal Capital Territory.
Okay, sir.
In 2006, during the administration of the present governor of Kaduna State, Malam El-Rufai, the commercial motorcycle activities in FCC was banned. And they were restricted to certain areas where, they could only provide last mile to commuters who doesn't have motorable, conditions in their areas. But as time goes by, I think there was, a little drop in the enforcement activity, and they begin to come into the city in trickles. But today, the story is different. They are not just overwhelmingly a nuisance. They are now a security threat to the residents of the Federal Capital Territory.
Okay.
In that 2006, the consideration for ban was purely for traffic violations, traffic nuisance. But today, the present administration of Malam Musa Bello has considered the overwhelming nature of Okada and the security threat it poses to residents as a very key cardinal attention that should be taken to ensure they are removed from the Federal Capital City.
Okay.
So in the past, when we arrest or impound the commercial motorcycles for traffic violations, we process them through the court, and then we seek forfeiture order, particularly when they refuse to come to stand for their violations or their actions. Then we seek forfeiture of the court, and then we crush them, and then dispose of the carcass. But today, the story is different because we are no more looking at them from the ground of traffic violation.
Okay.
They are now being considered as a security threat for the fact that they have been fingered in all manner of criminalities in the Federal Capital City. So the joint task force who has been mandated to clean the Okada definitely will not have that patience to process them, as they constitute security threat. So they are being now crushed instantly on the ground that they constitute security threat to the Federal Capital Territory.
Okay.
That's the background.
Okay. Okay. So after this confiscation, as we've already stated, the bikes were crushed, and these bikes must have been means of livelihood to the bike riders. Is there a compensation plan, or what happens to the owners of these bikes?
Actually, the activities of commercial motorcycle in the Federal Capital City is just at the prerogative of the administration, that waiver was given that in certain areas where there are no road infrastructures, they provide last mile, they should be allowed to operate. And they were given their, route arrangement where they should fly and where they should not. And then associations that regulate their primary activities had an engagement with the state, relevant offices, and they all agreed to a specific operational standard. Now, those that comply with that established operational standard are still working.
Okay.
So those that have constantly failed to agree to comply are the ones that are suffering this crushing. So if it is on a penal, ground that their, machines are crushed, I don't think there should be any form of, you can't compensate illegality. That's what I can say on this.
Okay.
But as long as they comply and they follow the already laid down agreement, then there will be no problem.
Okay. Okay. Since we're talking about the roads in general, some other people that use bike are the dispatch riders, and we can still see them on the roads. What's been done about this?
Yes, you will recall that the dispatch rider, the overwhelming nature of the dispatch riders on our roads, became evident, during COVID and then post-COVID situation. So it wasn't something that is very regular with the Federal Capital Territory. But now we have started looking into how to, regulate, the dispatch riders, giving the assent to the review of transportation regulation, presently by the Honorable Minister of the FCT. We have now agreed to regulate and accommodate certain number of dispatch riders. But having said this, there are other preconditions they have to meet. One is that they have to register formally, with the DRTS, that we are doing in conjunction with postal services who regulate logistics.
Okay.
Now, having registered, then we send the riders for training at our model driver institute at Lube. After training, because we need to train them on the traffic code, signs, and regulations. After being trained, then we'll offer them riders certificates.
Okay.
Then, that's on the part of the riders. Now, on the part of the motorcycle they use, we have discovered that they need to compete with, other vehicles on the highway. So there is need for us to upgrade the capacity of the vehicle that required to be used for dispatch services, which is not less than 200 cc. So for the last few months, we have been having engagement with all the operators, and we have all agreed to all these preconditions. And as I'm talking to you now, we have gotten fair enough number in terms of the required number to operate in the Federal Capital City.
Okay.
And then from January, as agreed by all the stakeholders, we will start full enforcement in clamping down any motorcycle used for dispatch that does not fulfill the conditions already agreed.
Okay.
That's where we are now.
Okay. Since we are in the business of making the road safe and sane, we've discussed Okada riders, we've discussed dispatch riders, a group of people that do not ride anything that are also on the road are the Agbiros. They don't ride anything, but they're on the road and constituting a nuisance. What's your take on this? What should be done?
I think we have to understand the configuration of the Federal Capital Territory, that Federal Capital Territory is made up of 6 area councils that are constitutionally created with responsibilities.
Okay.
So some of these people that, we call them touts,
Okay.
people that sometimes claim that they are working for, one area council or the other. So what we are doing and trying to establish now is to create a synergy between the central government and the area councils, so that we can have an understanding on how to regulate some of these transport issues, so that we don't have to have duplication of responsibilities that actually creates privileges or opportunities for touting. So it's a work in progress. I'm sure as time goes on, we will resolve that, and they will clean out all these abuses of the city.
Okay. Now, with the crushing and ban of Okadas, not all of us can drive. Of course, not all of us should drive. The places to park the cars wouldn't even be there. So, since some people have to use public transports, sometimes the vehicle can't take you to your doorstep. You would still need these Okadas. Are there alternatives made for people?
Yes, well, that's why we allow the use of the so-called, the tricycle called keke napep. Okay. We want to replace as much as we can, areas covered, for last mile, by the keke napep. Even though we are equally, battling with keke napep to abide by the route planning, but we feel for sure that it will be safer and better. It's easier, you understand, to regulate keke napep than the motorcycles. Because motorcycles can navigate areas that are not even, permissible because of the nature of the cycle, the nature of the vehicle. So, but keke napep will replace motorcycles, and in most cases, we are recommending, some kind of four-wheel drive that is we call them minibus, that can run some of these areas, so, but all these are work in progress. Like I said, motorcycles are not completely, eliminated, but there are areas they should not fly, particularly the city center and highways, you understand? So you see them now most of the times riding against traffic, committing, other traffic violations, and then risking the, life of people they carry on themselves. So, and even the others using the road. So that's the reason why it's particularly about the Federal Capital City. Okay. You understand? Yeah.
Okay. All right, sir. Just before we let you go, in very few words, advice to people who ply the road.
I think people should understand that the Federal Capital Territory Administration is particularly about, safety and security of lives of the people of the Federal Capital, Territory. So, and I want to, beg those people that, invest in the business of commercial motorcycles to think twice, because, it's a waste of resources, when you invest your money buying motorcycles for people only to be seized and crushed. And I equally want to appeal to residents that is their safety that is our concern. They should please, follow the already laid down regulation. Trekking from a bus stop, just some, meters to take either a keke napep to, your homes will not be too much sacrifice for your safety, and then for the sake of your life. And we beg them to understand with us that we are not intending to, inflict hardship. It's just our responsibility to ensure that the residents are safe and secured. And then secondly, to equally ask those doing the business to be law-abiding. It's very cheap to be on the side of law than to be against the law.
Definitely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for giving us an insight on Okada riders crush, the ban, the crush, and even taking us down history lane. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Welcome.
Right.
Thank you.
We have been conversing with Dr. Bello Abdul-Latif. He's the Directorate of Road Traffic Services, and he has given do's and don'ts. Please don't invest in an investment where it will be crushed. We all know the routes that Okadas are supposed to ply. All right, Good Morning Abuja continues shortly after this timeout. Do stay with us.